Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome back to the Toffee Blues podcast. It's been quite a while since we recorded one of these, I'll admit. And yeah, quite a bit has changed since the last one went up just before Christmas. So yeah, to dive into all of this, I'm joined by Harry. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not at all. And yeah, like I say, I think probably the main talking point has to be the change of manager. Of course, um, I can't believe how long it's been. It only seems like I'm still getting my head around it based on the fact that David Moyes is back, and it's definitely been a whirlwind few weeks, hasn't it? So yeah, I guess just it's coming up to about a month since he came in. So yeah, just talk us through that first month and what you've made of it.
I mean, I've got a smile on my face, and that's the first time in a couple of years, probably, as an Evertonian, that I've had a smile on my face at the idea of talking about Everton. And I think a lot of that, in part, is down to the return of David Moyes. And I think, for me personally, I was very for the original appointment, like him coming back to the club. I know that it was a bit of a Marmite decision, wasn't it? Whether him coming back in was the right idea. Was it a sideways step from Dyche, or was it even a step backwards to kind of look back on? He was there for 11 years, he was away for 11 years, and then he's come back again now. And have we progressed, regressed, stayed the same, But I think overall, this first month has been a whirlwind. And I think even in that defeat against Villa, you could just see the mood of the fans was a lot different. The atmosphere inside Goodison felt a lot different. And there were just signs that we were going to be okay. And I think even in games that we were winning under Sean Dyche, which were very few and far between, but in the games that we were winning under Dyche, it just felt like I never felt confident we were going to be okay. And I think with Moyes, even in that defeat to Villa, I thought that we would be. He seems to have got a lot out of some of the players that were almost written off under Dyche, the likes of O'Brien, the likes of Lindstrom. It'd be a miracle if he could get a tune out of Jack Harrison, but like that's the next step for him. And I think overall, when have we had the chance to sit and talk about Everton coming off the back of three straight wins? Like we're going back probably years at this point. So I think overall, Moyes coming back, it's a vindicating decision. I think he's probably won a lot of the naysayers over, regardless of one or two fans you see on clickbait for TalkSport. But I think overall it's been a really, really positive month, and probably one of the most positive months we've had in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think the main thing has to be that he's got us looking forward to watching Everton again. Which
Yeah.
even in the periods where we were doing okay under Dyche, it wasn't exactly the most enjoyable experience watching it. It was mostly, the like biting the nails, watching us try and defend a narrow lead most of the time. Whereas you look at Saturday. I can't remember the last time we won a game as comfortably as that against Leicester. Just yeah, ridiculous how quickly things have changed, and as you say, the mood has changed. Um, and yeah, it's got to be said. I was a little 50-50 on it. I mean, I think for my generation of fans, it was quite easy to get on board with just because it's like your dad coming home after
Yeah.
years, basically.
Popped
Uh,
up for a very big pint of milk.
yeah, exactly that. And yeah, I saw someone make the analogy that you had a string of really crap stepdads come in and try and fill the void, and then finally, your real dad comes back, and it's like you're a kid again. And to be fair, the last few weeks, that's what it's felt like. It's been a pretty giddy feeling, really. Just watching teams fear coming to Goodison again, and
Yeah.
we've got two really big games coming up at home in the next week, which we'll dive into later. And these two teams are very much in form, and yeah, I don't think they're going to be looking forward to this game at all, either of them. And that's a real big testament to the job David Moyes has done. So yeah, we've talked about how it feels different. What do you think is like the main things that has changed? Because it's the same group of players. We haven't added anyone too big in January. Obviously, we made one signing. We haven't seen him in action yet. So it's the same group of players, which I'll freely admit I didn't think any manager could get too much more out of than Dyche was. and yet I've been proved wrong straight away. So yeah, what would you say are the main things that feel different and feel more fresh?
Well, I think it's exactly the point that you just made there. Like you believed that there wasn't a lot more that could be gotten out of those players. And not to put a tinfoil hat on here and go full conspiracy theory, but the narrative around the club for the particularly the last year, I think since we got safe after the points deductions, the last year in particular, the Dyche narrative has been really toxic and kind of almost like quite gaslightery in this sense of trying to convince everybody the last season at Goodison is a distraction. Even though we recruited in the summer, it wasn't enough. These players aren't better than what I'm getting from them, and we can't play free flowing attacking football with the squad that we have. And I think so many people bought into that narrative, and it was almost like the players were hearing, if you're told you're bad at something enough, then surely you're going to end up in a position where you believe it. And so I think what Moyes has done almost instantly is he's calmed the media down. I think the kind of the sharks that were circling around Everton and the relegation scrap, it's calmed down. And I think he's given players belief. And I think that was something that David Moyes was always very good at, was that expression of like punching above our weight, and like plucky Everton were used a lot during his first reign, and over exceeding expectation. And I think he's just picked up where he's left off. He's inherited a squad of players like bereft of confidence, and straight away he's encouraged. He's told these players that you can cross the halfway line, that that's not a criminal offence. And he's outed publicly the kind of the real problems in the team about not scoring goals. But I think inwardly he's probably been challenging those players to go and prove him wrong rather than prove him right. And I think that arguably is the biggest change that Moyes has made.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say there because I think why I was a fan of Deitch was that he was pragmatic, and I think at the time he came in he was exactly what we needed. Like when he came in, the club was in absolute free fall.
Yeah,
We were protesting every week against the board, that the fan base was just completely sick of, an owner that the fan base was completely sick of, and who had been thrown under the bus with that statement and all that stuff that you can get into. It was a
yeah,
horrible, horrible club to come into, and I still, no matter whatever people's thoughts are on Dyche, I still think the fact he kept us up that season he came in is miraculous. I
yeah,
genuinely do. I think I think very few managers would have been able to get enough to get us over the line that season. The squad was an absolute mess. Um, but as you say, I think there did have to come a time where, you know, after a bit of stability, like last season was pretty, we were safe for most of it. I don't think that we were looking over our
mm,
shoulder anywhere near as much as we have been the previous two seasons. And as you say, it did just kind of seem to be, but this is our ceiling. This is as far as we can
yeah,
go. And as you say, that sort of thing will permeate on a squad of players. And as you say, it was they were playing in themselves a bit. You could see, players snatching at chances because the narrative was that's probably the best we're going to get all game. Like, so if you
yeah,
don't take it, that's it. And yet, and as you say, it was playing in on ourselves. The fans were just getting sick of it, and it was contributing to a very miserable last season at Goodison. And as you say, Moy just come in, and it's just been the complete opposite. As you say, he's really um, been a breath of fresh air, hasn't he? He's given
yeah,
everyone the belief that we can go on further, and it's so clear he gets the club, he really does,
mm,
it's something that I've never really understood as being that important, and it's only when you see it in action and you see just how much of an effect it's had already, just how important that actually is. And as you say, even those fans who weren't so sure in his appointment, a lot of them are well on board now because the results are there for all to see, and yeah, that narrative has definitely been shifted, hasn't it?
yeah, it has. And I think just a word on Deitch as well. I completely agree with you. Like I was firmly in the Deitch out camp at the end of his tenure, but not without the respect of what he achieved last season. And I think, the frustration that I had with Deitch actually, and particularly the way he approached this season was like we said earlier, I think without the points deductions, he would have got Everton to finish 11th last season ahead of Brighton. And I think for me, why then are we in the position that we were in this season? Like without the points deductions, why are we still? And I think at one point he was almost saying, we're no worse off than we were last season, but we had two huge points deductions last season that really derailed a season. So why weren't we kicking on? And I think when you can't see a club kicking on, and I saw some journalists out there, they made the comparisons of look at Nottingham Forest this season. And I dismiss that because that's a wonderful thing that's happening for Forest right now. And I don't think we were anywhere near set up to do the same that Forest did and are doing. But I do think, yeah, a word on Dyche. Like I think it was I don't think he's somebody that out and out didn't get the club. I just think he'd taken it as far as he could. And it was nice to see that reflected in his statement when he left as well, that, he felt grateful for the opportunity, but he realized that that was that. And it's been nice to see that almost like amicable handover where Moyes is being told and praised about the job he's doing and he's giving Dyche his flowers and his acknowledgement. And it's very rare you see that in modern day football. So I think that's been good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And as you say, if it's true what's been reported in the media that he literally went to the club hierarchy, the new owners who, by all accounts seemed intent on giving him a chance and giving him
Yeah.
a few, even maybe to the end of the season in the job, and he told them this is as far as I can take the club. Then fair play. I think that's very honest of him. I don't know
Yeah.
how many Premier League managers would be able to sacrifice their ego in admitting something like that. And as you say, I think, it the last few weeks have proved it probably was the right decision for us to part ways. And, a lot of the fan base had really turned on him. But as you say, I'd like to think that in a few years, we'll be able to most fans will be able to reflect back on his time at the club and, respect the job he did. But, as we say, still agree that it was the right time for him to
Yeah.
go. So yeah, as we've talked, of course, the mood is completely different now, and rather than looking like nervously down the table, a lot of us are starting to look up it a little bit more now. Um, and obviously, I don't want to. I'm still very wary about getting too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We haven't beaten anyone amazing yet. You could say getting a result down at Brighton was pretty impressive, but it was one of those games where we dug in quite a bit. It was quite a Dyche victory, to be fair. I saw a lot of people
Wasn't it
say
just, yeah.
I saw a lot of people saying that at the time. But regardless, as you say, the mood is shifting, and this next week I think will really be a test to see what we're made of. I think, and will give a good indication of how maybe the rest of the season will pan out. So right now. Where would you be like hoping? Like what's like the maximum hope you'd have for where Everton could finish this season?
I'm prepared to get gunned down in the comments for this one, but I honestly, looking at that table right now and looking at how far behind we are some of these teams, I don't think that 10th is out of the question as a stretch target for the remainder of the final season at Goodison. I mean, if you look at it right now, we're 7 points ahead of Wolves, who are in 17th. We have just beaten Brighton, and they are only on 34 points. And I just feel with the teams above us, West Ham, Tottenham, United, Palace, Brentford, Brighton, they have all had very mixed bags of form lately. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, that Moyes is gonna this great retro toffee time warp, as I keep calling it, that we're going through at the moment, where we're just gonna go on a run to the end of the season unbeaten. I really don't think that's the case. Some of the games we've got coming up are probably gonna maybe put a sharp end to it. But I think 10th, really, I do. And I think what we've got now ahead of us and what he's been afforded is a free hit now, because I really think the three that are in that drop zone are the three, and Wolves are the ones that will get sucked in as the alternate. I think we're too far ahead, and even if there are a couple of bad results on the horizon for us now, I think who's in the dugout and the squad that we've got, even with the injuries, is enough. But I think 10th if we keep everyone fit and we keep this momentum going.
Yeah, like I say, I think as bad as last season was, I think it was the case that we'd earned enough points by like December to
Yeah,
that if we hadn't earned a single point after that, we still would have stayed up, which is crazy to think.
yeah.
And obviously, that's only in hindsight, of course, but that makes me think that we can't be far off now. Like having enough points. And I think that, as you say, I think that feeling of a free hit, like that exact phrase you used, I think is exactly right. And I think if we get to around March, knowing that it would take an absolute miracle for one of the other teams to catch us and suck us back in, then those last few weeks of, as you say, having a free hit, seeing what these players, allowing them to express themselves even more than they are at the
Yeah,
moment, is about as good a send off for Goodison as we could have hoped for at the start of the year. It's exactly
absolutely.
what we were hoping for, and that would be a real achievement, I think, based on where we were just a month ago. Um, and yeah, like I said, I'm still, I've still probably got a bit of the old Dutch pragmatism in me. Like, I'm still more than happy at, I'd still take 17th right now if you gave it to me. Or we just need to stay up, and that is all I'm truly bothered about. But it would be lovely just to have a few weeks where just no worry going on in the back of our heads, and we can, just watch Everton with a clear mind and just enjoy the football really.
Yeah.
And particularly, that last home game, of course, no distractions, all about just getting a win, just to see off Goodison how it deserves. So yeah, like I say, I think we're definitely in a good place at the moment. So fingers
Do you
crossed
not
it
think as
continues.
well with we've got to play Southampton still, we've got to play Ipswich still, we've got Wolves coming up, I think, in a couple of weeks. We've just absolutely torn Leicester apart there and really showcased actually how the difference in the risk of changing a manager versus the benefit of changing a manager. I mean, that was massively highlighted at the weekend for me. But with those games we've still got to play, I just feel 7 point cushion now and not losing those games against the ones below us. And I think that's more than enough because I really, Ipswich were the ones that I think most people were worried about maybe being sort of last season's Luton and really giving it a go. And then to lose at home to Southampton, which, that lot of good teams lose at home to Southampton. But what I'm saying is like, I think it's one of those where they've probably shown now that this might be a step too far for them. It'd be a big hit to their confidence. They're not going to change their manager. They're going to stick with what they've got. And I think really for us, the 7 point cushion, the fact we've still got to play those teams below us, I just think it is I'll lean on it again. It is just a complete free hit. I'd expect us to be well away from it by March and maybe even have 2 months of like just really free football at Goodison to see it out.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right because, like, to be honest, like I said, I've never really been that worried about relegation all season anyway. It was only in the final few weeks of Dice that I'm like, it is so toxic now that we could
Yeah.
end up getting dragged back in. But that's, like I say, it's just the polar opposite now. So, like, there's no reason for me to be too worried now that we'll be relegated. I should be more confident than ever. So, um, as you say, that when you put it like that, you're almost certainly right. And the next few run of fixtures we've got, barring the next week ahead, it's a lot more favourable than
Yeah.
the kind of 2 months we've had going forward. And then obviously April it starts to ramp up a little bit again. But then the end of the season's not too bad. There's a few more really winnable games there. But there's also, as I say, in that April, a few opportunities to try and claim a few scalps. Like we used to do under Moyes, particularly at home. Obviously,
Yeah.
I know Moyes' away record at the big grounds is definitely something that needs to be improved. But at home we were really claiming scalps, and in the next few weeks when we play United, who are an absolute basket case of a club at the moment, and have been for
Yeah.
years, and yet always seem to do us over, no matter how badly they play. Like, I think a lot of fans are really going to be up for that one, and just like, right, we need to get these now because it's been long overdue. There's been so many times where we've been to United and played pretty well, and just one goal just kills our confidence completely, and we capitulate. So it would be lovely to get a result against them in particular in the next few weeks. But yeah, looking ahead at other things as well. Obviously, that's so we talked about how positive it is at the moment, but obviously last week there was a little bit of negativity around the transfer window. A lot of people a bit fed up with Felwell. Um, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting us to get many more than one player in anyway. Felwell has made it clear how much he doesn't like the January market. Most other clubs weren't bringing in many players either. Um, and it's one of those where he almost can't win, I think, because either he
Mm.
doesn't bring anyone in and everyone moans, or he just brings in someone as a stopgap who turns out to be crap. And it's just like, well, why have we signed him? So, like I say, if the right player was available, obviously we would have got him. I think is the way I look at it. What did you make of it?
What has it been here? A few sleeps since the window closed, and I think I've had time to calm down a little bit on it because I definitely got sucked into, and I'll tell you why I got sucked into it because Moyes sucked me into it. I think every press conference where David Moyes was asked, "What are we doing in the window?" and his argument, I think he set his stall out pretty much from the first press conference he did. Like, I think we need two or three players and then I think it came down to two, and two was like I'd like a couple of players in before the close of the window, and it really was only the pre press conference for Leicester where he started to hint that okay, like it's only if it's the right two and we'll do what we can, but like started to taper expectations slightly. I got sucked into it. I really, really thought, well, you're not going to bring someone in to fight a relegation battle and have these injuries in his first 3, 4 games and not back him with new owners. Now, I wonder the question I would put out there, and it's a typical like, we'll never know, so it'll never be answered. I wonder if he'd have lost his first four, whether they would have then put their hand in their pocket. And I wonder if Moyes' bounce and his positivity has almost cost him the ability to go and almost panic buy. I'm glad retrospectively that we haven't. I like the look of the lad that we've brought in. I think I like a lot of our recruitment from the summer as well, and I think Thelwell will get a lot of criticism for who we've missed out on, or he'll get criticism because supposedly we're always after the same three targets and have been for like the last 5 years. But I think the ones he got in this summer is probably the best window we've had for a very long time. And I think what we're looking at right now, you mentioned earlier in the pod about the new owners being intent potentially on keeping Dyche until the end of the season and just letting his contract run. And I think we're in that same state with players as well. I think the players we've got there now, lots of them on contracts that are expiring, probably going to get a chance to play for a 1 or 2 year extension for the rest of this season, given the lack of bodies we've got. And I think they are going to need to renew a couple of those. I don't think we're going to go and get 14 new players in the summer. I think Thelwell's head would explode. I think Moyes would lose his hair. I just think drama would ensue, and we don't need it. So I think some of these lads will be playing for new contracts. I think the window itself was slow, but take Man City out of it. Like, who did? I mean, Villa had a sensational January window. You can't look at that and not be envious. But outside of City and Villa, like, who are you looking at there and thinking, man, they had a better window than us? I don't think many, because I don't think many dipped their toe into it, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. It's a very interesting point you make there about, as you say, we talk about this free hit, and as you say, it may very well be that case for the players, as you say, that they get a chance to express themselves and as you say, play for a new deal. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm very much in the camp of give Felwell a go with some actual money to spend, and
Yeah,
like, but for all the criticisms thrown at him, and as you mentioned about as people say about always going after the same targets, Ndiaye was someone we were after for a long time. Imagine if
yeah,
we'd given up on him. Like, he's
yeah,
absolutely. I can't remember the last time a player won over the fans this quickly. Like, he already seems to me like the new Richarlison, just the players that everyone wants to watch, and is the one that gets us off our seats and really seems to be buying into it all as well. Um, One of the best signings we've made in ages, and yeah, as you say, a lot of the signings we made in the summer hadn't really, you know, hadn't quite kicked on as we'd liked. But in the last few weeks, as you say, Lindstrom and O'Brien have come in and looked really solid. So as you say, it'll probably be one that we look back on and think, what a great window that was, especially in the circumstances. Still, juggling with the whole PSR thing. So yeah, I would definitely be giving Thelwell another go. At least like, maybe one more year, one more window or whatever. I think his contract's up in the summer as well, I believe. So
yeah.
be interesting to see how we work around that.
We
Um,
have we have got to really look at we have got to really look with this about the board of now that this January window is out of the way, and it is quite often a distraction for a lot of clubs. But now that window's out of the way, they've got to get things right behind the scenes. And I'm not just talking about player contracts, like they need to put the right board in place. Like, we as a club have been so bereft of like business acumen and direction for probably since Moyes was there. And even when Moyes was there, did we have a lot under Ken Wright? Not really. And I just think now with the new stadium, the chance there is so rich to just get so much more revenue into the club. We know we're going to be taking a lot away from them lot across the park. And I just think like we need the right heads in those positions. And arguably for me, the recruitment now for the infrastructure of the club is going to supersede the players that we bring in the summer because we've got to get that right now and set us up because players are going to come and go. We need that infrastructure there. On Thelwell, yeah, I don't know. I think it just depends for me on whether it's like who is in charge really. Like if we're going to go down a route here where Moyes wants to bring in the Everton type of player, then is Thelwell prepared to shift his focuses to accommodate that? Because we know with Marcel Brands, he said, "Oh, it was the managers. Like I had these players, and then either the manager or Mashiri didn't want them." And so he had those problems. And what we don't want is Thelwell to have the same. I've got these players lined up, but the manager doesn't want them, or the owners don't back me, they back the manager. So we've just got to have everyone on the same sort of song sheet. And we've just got to kind of know with Thelwell, like, is he going to play the game that with the manager as well, whoever that manager might be?
Yeah, I think that's just all we ask for, isn't it? Alignment, I think is the word. You
Yeah,
just like everyone, as you say, just like working to the same vision, working to the same goal, and just a bit of competence, really. I think,
just a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, like I say, look, it's been long overdue, hasn't it? But yeah, looking ahead, like I said, we've touched on about how there's two very big games coming up in the next few days. Obviously one in the FA Cup, and then of course the rearranged derby. Um, as I said before, I think this is a step above the oppositions we've been playing under Moyes so far. Two teams in really good form, who our records against aren't particularly good. Yeah, I guess yeah. What are we thinking going into these two games?
I just think that one of the other elements that Moyes brings to the table here is, like I say, we're all on this sort of nostalgia hit at the moment, like a song coming on shuffle on your phone that you've not heard for a few years and you remember why you loved it. And I think that's kind of where we're at with Everton right now. And I think if you tie that in with the whole last season at Goodison and being able to actually enjoy it a little bit more now. And you mentioned earlier, quite rightly, I think already we've got this sort of like instant fear back. Like no one wants to play at Goodison right now. They would have loved it under the previous administration, but I don't think anyone will relish a trip there. This cup game, regardless of whether we win it at the weekend, has the potential to be the last FA Cup game at Goodison Park, and the derby is the last Merseyside derby at Goodison. Like, there's so much sort of there's just so many reasons. I'm getting goosebumps just saying those things out loud. And you feel like if you're being paid to play in those games for the shirt, knowing what's just come before with those 3 wins, your confidence and your energy's just got to be sky high. And I think we're one or two injuries away from this derailing massively, by the way. Like, I know that's sort of like, not to use the Grim Reaper analogy now that Moyes is back, but like the Grim Reaper standing over the shoulder is there in terms of injuries for us. And we are one or two, Beto picks up an injury in the cup game at the weekend. It's going to look very interesting against Liverpool because we don't have a Fellaini that's going to go and stand up top, even though he's a midfielder. So for me, it does depend on injuries, but am I being too optimistic to say that we could go and get 2 more wins here? Like,
I mean, I say with the feeling at the moment, it's definitely not out of the question. And as you say, I remember obviously the game got called off on the day, but when we played Liverpool, when we were meant to play Liverpool back in December, we just come back off a 4-0 win, like we have
yeah,
now. Um, and even though we'd been shocking in November, and we'd kind of got this really weird win over Wolves where we hadn't actually played very well, we just scored from 4 set pieces, including two own
yeah,
goals, and yet. I think there was a real feeling that we were just going to go and do Liverpool on Saturday. I don't know if I'm imagining that really, but I remember that very clearly, a very distinct feeling. And now, like I said, especially if we get a result on Saturday, that feeling will surely be like amplified tenfold. You know,
Yeah.
like off the back of 4 wins in a row, including three at Goodison, it would be. Um, I think that confidence would just be overwhelming. And you know, with it being a night game as well, like it was last season on a Wednesday night, I just think Goodison will be churning, and I
Yeah.
think it could genuinely be one of them where Liverpool just can't cope with it. Um, and you know, I think we've seen it in a few years before. Like you know, their record at Goodison isn't very good in the last few
No, it's
years. You
not.
know, um, and as you say, just it kind of feels with that last season at Goodison, like something special's like just around the corner, as you say, with the Moyes nostalgia back as well. Just that all these factors coming in. I don't know. As you say, I'm a little bit like that as well. Just a bit like, oh, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But
Yeah,
like,
that's the
it's a,
thing, isn't it? I do think there's definitely that, and that's Everton in a nutshell, particularly like our fan base, right? Is like we go on to win a 3 games and we think, yeah, we win every game
yeah,
now. And then equally, if we go out of the cup on Saturday, we'll turn up to Liverpool thinking we're going to get done about 7-0. Like
yeah,
it really is kind of like this all or nothing feeling, and it has been for years. And I just think like I've really got a bit of a taste for winning at the moment, and it's a taste that I'm not too familiar with these days in Royal Blue. So I feel like if we got the cup win, I just think yeah, like you say, you're going to turn up on Wednesday, and the last one we've got to remember as well here, Liverpool play in the Carabao Cup. They play in the FA Cup before they play us. They've got 2 games now. They've got squad depth. They can rotate, and any squad they put out will cause problems. Like it's just the way they play football. They're very disciplined, and you can't overlook it, right? Like they're top of the league for a reason. But we've not played against them in the league yet. Like Slot will not have experienced a Merseyside derby yet. Like he's pretty much coped with every other test thrown at him, and he'd be wise not to take it lightly because whilst I don't think we'd run away with it, I think we will be one of their hardest propositions of the season because, as you say, the record at Goodison hasn't been fantastic. I think we often think it's a lot worse for us at Goodison than it is. I don't think there's been too many times in recent memory where we've been humiliated at home. I think we're often a 1-1 or a 0-0, or obviously last season we did the business on the Wednesday night under the floodlights. So yeah, I guess that my question to you, Alex, would be if you were offered one win out of the next two, what one would you take? Cup progression or the Merseyside Derby win?
yeah. Well, as you say, as you just touched on there, the interesting thing is, do you need one to have the other? Like I say,
Yeah,
if you don't win on Saturday, because obviously there's no draws on Saturday, we have win or lose with
yeah,
how the cup works now, which is a conversation for another day.
yeah.
But like I say, do you need that win against Bournemouth to have enough confidence to go on and do Liverpool, or will getting knocked out the cup and another chance at a trophy gone? You know, a lot of people like imagine a trophy in the final season at Goodison as well,
I
or at
know.
least a deep cup run. Will that
Yeah,
deflate us so much that we can't get a win on Wednesday? I mean, for me, I have to go with the derby. I genuinely do. I think, I think I'd argue that, let's not have a distraction of a cup run. I don't think this team is is prepared enough to go on and have a serious run in the cup anyway. If I'm being brutally honest,
mm,
whereas a derby is a bit of a one-off, and it's just a chance to really, as you say, anyone who's still doubting Moyes will really struggle to not be able to justify it after that if we go and do Liverpool in the derby. So I think the last one at Goodison as well. I think that's gotta be the one that I want. So I mean I think we've spoken a lot about how we feel about the game from our heart, but what's your head saying for these two games? What obviously the as we say the Bournemouth game might affect how the Liverpool game
yeah.
goes, but if I had to pin you right now for two score predictions, what are you giving me?
I'd go 2-1 at the weekend. I think we'll edge that one. I don't think we're as guaranteed clean sheet since Deitch left. So I'd say 2-1 at the weekend, with probably us making a bit of squad rotation as well. And then Merseyside Derby, why not just do back-to-back 2-0s? Like I think let's have what we had last season under the lights against them, and I'll go 2-0 and just be fully into this like optimism and believe in it until I'm given a reason not to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's absolutely keep this feel good factor going and keep it as amplified as possible. So yeah, I think we're just about done with all this now, but we'll finish off on a bit of a lineup quiz.
Yeah.
You haven't had a chance to experience one of these before, but yeah, with it being the FA Cup on the weekend and playing Bournemouth, we're going to go back to 2016. Uh,
Wow.
Pretty sure it's the only time we've won at Bournemouth's ground. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that. FA Cup fifth round, Martinez's final season, and it was a 2-0 win. So yeah, whenever you're ready, let's see how many of these starting 11 you can name.
Oh my goodness. So Martinez's second season. So it
Finals, it's final season.
final season. Sorry.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're going. Would he have gone I think this was when Robles had just usurped Howard, maybe. So I'm going to go Joel Robles in goal.
that's correct.
Seamus would have been at
Seamus
right back.
Coleman, yep.
Yeah. Bainesy was still playing. So Baines at left back.
Bainesy was on the bench, so yeah, I'm going to give you three. I'm
Oh,
going to give you three lives for this, by the way. But
okay.
you don't lose a life if they're on the bench. So
Got
I'll
ya.
I'll, I'll let you off that. So
So
yeah, so no
who
Baines.
came in as left back then? That was I want to say no. I was gonna go Luca Dean, but I think that's too early, isn't it?
Yeah, not Dean. Yeah.
Oh my, who would have played at left back? Jesus. Okay, we're skipping left back for now. We're gonna I'll go Jags.
Yeah,
Jagielka would have still been
Jagielka
playing. Yeah.
started. Yep.
John Stones.
John Stones was on the bench.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Jags would have been there. Oh, Alcaraz.
No, no
Oh,
Alcaraz,
thank
thank
God.
God.
Okay,
Um,
I'll happily lose a
yeah,
life
yeah,
for
yeah.
that
So
one.
that's a life lost, as you say.
So Barry and McCarthy in
Yep,
midfield.
both of them, very
Yeah.
good.
Delafeu would have played. No.
Delafay was on the bench.
Oh, skin of my teeth.
Yeah,
Um, Lukaku.
yeah. Lukaku started. Yeah,
Yeah. God, who would have played wing on the wings then? Oh my God. I was about to say Morales, and I feel like I'd have lost a life there. Oh, I'm gonna go Morales. Why
on the
not?
bench.
On a bench, my word. What a bench we used to
Yeah,
have.
I was going to say, imagine a
Oh my
bench like this now.
word. Who would have played I'm just like drawing massive. I'm gonna go Aidan McGeady.
No. Oh God, you're
No.
bringing up some horrible names there. No McGeady at all. No.
I feel like I've got like PTSD trying to name this team,
Yeah,
but
right.
okay. So
So
that's
that's
my
the
three,
you're
isn't
on
it?
one life now. So
Oh man,
tread
okay.
tread carefully.
Oh my words. So I've got loads of holes in this team right now, haven't I? Would Eto have played? Was that the
No,
weird
no,
like
no, no,
Eto?
Eto. Season
Ah,
out. So yeah, that's it. I'm afraid.
awful.
So so yeah, so I just say you said Joel, you said Coleman, and you said Jags. So to complete the defense, Funes Mori, uh,
Of course, yeah.
and Brian Oviedo was still at left
Oh, cool,
back.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know you nearly said Luke Gar, but would been a good shout, but not involved. And then yeah, I think it was just the attacking midfield you missed. So Aaron Lennon, this was that run of form Aaron Lennon was
Wow.
on where he just kept scoring very randomly
Yeah,
and then did nothing else. Ross Barkley,
of
uh,
course.
and Tom Cleverley at left midfield.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, like you say, bit of PTSD from all that with some of the
Yeah.
names mentioned, but yeah, we're running out of time a little bit on this, so we'll wrap up very quickly now. So thank you very much for joining me, Harry. I've actually really enjoyed this. It's nice
Yeah, cheers,
having
mate.
a smile talking about Everton again. Uh, so yeah, thank you for joining us. Um, Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below, give me your thoughts ahead of two very big games, and subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content. And we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.